Welcome to the BackPageLead Vidcast for round 4 and 5. Mate, Carey, how are you?
Good, mate. Got on the casual look tonight. In case you've noticed.
Well, yeah, I haven't noticed. I hope they can see you under that visor.
Yeah, one shaven too, the rough look.
The issues to come out of round 4. Should Lindsay Thomas have been cited for sliding into Gary Rowan, which obviously led to terrible injuries for Gary, but
should not have been cited at all.
Yeah.
It is probably one of the worst decisions I've seen for a long time. I understood the Adam Goods one. I understand they don't want you to slide. Adam Goods, both those players slid from about 4 metres away, slid into one another.
Yep.
Goods gets a week. I know they want to cut that out. I think it can be dangerous, no question, especially if a player's got his head over the ball.
Yep.
But in this instance, I mean, it was just a simple case of a guy going for the footy.
got there first,
Did not slide, was low to the ground before he might have slid for a very short, but had his eye on the ball, turned to protect the footy, always had touched the footy before there was even contact made. His whole focus was the football. Terrible accident. Rowan gets a broken leg. That's footy. I mean, people get injured in football. It's a contact sport. You want to play basketball or soccer or, I don't know, one of the other sports you don't get injured in, go and play it. But this is a contact sport. And that was a good attack on the footy as I've seen, and terrible accident that he's broken his leg, and you don't like to see that. A lot of bad injuries on the weekend, none of which you could sort of really help. I mean, they're just a lot of them freak
Robbie Gray,
freak accidents
from Port Adelaide you're talking about.
Yeah, but I mean, this was just a classic case of a guy attacking the footy very hard. If he doesn't get off, I won't watch footy again. That is a terrible decision.
You're not going to run up and down Lygon Street in the nude like Lou Richards used to do.
I don't think anyone would want to see that, Charlie. But it'll get thrown out tonight.
We're filming this on Tuesday evening, so the tribunal's probably being heard as we speak.
It is being heard right as we speak.
So I hope
hopefully it's been thrown out already.
Very good. We mentioned the shocking injuries. It's a funny old, the first 4 rounds, we've got Essendon, Sydney and West Coast unbeaten, and we've got Geelong, Hawthorn and Collingwood who've all lost twice. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, look, I think what has happened, and partly because of injuries, what has happened is the gap has closed somewhat. I think there's a real blanket of 8 sides that have a real possibility of pinching a flag. When I say pinching a flag, I mean the best side on the day will win it. Yeah. And but I really think it's wide open. What last week showed us, you got the Bombers, who I think are on the verge of 8th to or maybe 6th to 12th, where that's what I thought at the start of the year. Then last week you see Carlton, who really touch up Collingwood, and we think, well, Carlton now premiership favourites. And they get beaten by the Bombers, and convincingly by the Bombers. I mean, and that's the nature of the competition. If you're off a little bit, you go in there with the wrong attitude, that's what's going to happen to you. And I think that's where it's at. Both of the sides going into Anzac Day tomorrow, which is a huge clash. Both have got a lot of injuries, but on Anzac Day it doesn't matter. This will be a hard fought. This will be a really, really good game to watch. Going along to watch it. Not like some. I'm in the comforts of a box, which is being catered for. So, sorry, Charlie, you sit out in the rain. I'll sit in the box and enjoy a good game of footy on Anzac Day. Going to my first service tomorrow as well. I've never been, Charlie.
Dawn service,
which I've never ever been to, and I'm actually going to go along. Yeah. You're telling me I've got to get there at 6, so
5, I reckon.
5, okay. I'll be the only one there at 5.
Let's just go back to your comments about Essendon. I mean, you must have to recast your opinion about them now. They're going to finish higher than 12th, aren't they? They're a top 8 team.
Straight away, they're 4 win, 4 and zip. You would say that they'll make the 8 now. They're probably not certainties to make the 8, but you certainly wouldn't be backing against them to make the 8 now. So I mean, I had the Kangaroos, probably in my 8th position. They're going okay. They're 2 and 2. They got beaten by the Bombers by just those couple of points, as we know in round 1. Those little small wins, those close wins, they come back to haunt you later in the year, and they also come back to put a feather in your cap if you can win a few, and that's what the Bombers have been able to do.
Yeah, you got an Anzac Day winner for us. Essendon obviously going in without Michael Hurley. But Pies struggling with injuries.
Look, they've both got their stars out, so no point talking about those. Let's talk about the guys that come in.
Yep.
There's a wonderful opportunity there for some young kids to play in front of 80 plus thousand, purely only because of the weather. It'd be 90 plus if the weather was better, and it'll be huge. But I just think Collingwood, as good as Essendon were last week. Look at the conditions. It's going to be tough, hard. You know, those speedy Gonzalez Essendon players that were so dominant last week maybe slow down a little bit in those conditions, in the conditions that they'll get tomorrow. So for those reasons, I think the Pendleburys, the Swans, and those guys around Collingwood's midfield will take control, and the Pies will get out on top. You know, your Dawes and your Cloaks, you've still got those big forwards that are capable in those conditions as well. So on that basis, Harry O'Brien back in form. I don't know. I just like the look of the Pies.
You're loyal to the Pies.
For someone that said the Pies will slide, and they have somewhat slid, so to speak. You know, they are 2-2, but I've picked them every week. I think I've picked them every week. I do think they should account for the Bombers.
Okay, there you go. You saw Geelong and Richmond down at what's it called now? Simon's Stadium or
Simmons Stadium,
or Shell or something.
Yep.
They had a really good chance to win, didn't they, the Tigers? They drew level on the last quarter and just couldn't quite seal it.
They did. It was a game, they were pretty terrible, to be honest, Charlie. They were good in the first quarter, terrible in the second quarter. They kicked 5 behinds. They didn't attack. They didn't look at the Cats and take lessons from the Cats at all. They attacked from the bottom side, which is where the wind was blowing. Can't score goals from there. They kick 5 behinds. Have to attack from the top side, and they overuse the handball, terribly. And I think not their conversion, their skills were terrible in that second quarter. I think they were going at about 35%. So, and then in the third quarter, they really picked it up. They attacked from the top side. I think they went up to 70%. With their disposal, and all of a sudden they were in the game, and the Cats really had to fight to win. And as usual, your Bartells and your Selwoods and these guys all stood up, and they got the Cats over the line.
Geelong in their prime form 2 or 3 years ago wouldn't have won by 8 points. I mean, they would have blown a side like Richmond away, wouldn't they?
Yeah, good sides win when they need to win and have to win, and they were able to do that.
True. Look ahead to round 5 quickly. Can you see any upsets in the offing? The close games that I can see are Freo hosting Carlton. Obviously got a bit of a new steel to the side under Ross Lyon, Freo.
Yeah, they were good on the weekend. They got challenged. They got challenged a few times. It was a close game. Got challenged in the last quarter. Got headed in the last quarter, and then able to win that game. They would have never won that game in any other year that I've seen them in the competition, especially in Melbourne at Etihad Stadium. So big tick to Freo. Boy, I think after beating St Kilda at Etihad, going over there, Carlton last week, you'd nearly have to favour Freo over there, even though Carlton with their leg speed and everything else and their midfield, probably too early in the week to be tipping this one, but it's going to be a cracker.
Yeah. Your old teammate Johnny Longmire is doing great things with Sydney. They're really playing, and as someone who was at the SCG and saw it firsthand, unfortunately on Sunday, playing with he's Paul Roos reincarnated, isn't he, in terms of his game plan?
No, but he's John Longmire. He's Johnny Longmire. He's coaching like Johnny Longmire. Paul Roos was his coach. He was an assistant under Paul Roos, but I think he's his own man.
Has the game plan changed?
I don't know about that. I tell you what hasn't changed is we keep writing Sydney off every year and saying they're going to slide. They've a few players have retired. They just do what they have to do. They're a gallant side. They remind me a lot of the Kangaroos in some ways. They keep coming. They keep having a go. They're never out of the game, and they deserve to be where they're at right now. They're a good side, Sydney, and they've got a very good draw. Got a very good draw. So
I think do they play Greater Western?
They played the Greater Western twice, and I think they play the Gold Coast twice. Yeah. And I think what people are saying is if you've got both of those twice, you've got a good draw.
Which is what North's got as well. Can they beat Hawthorn down in Launceston?
Yeah, they can.
If it's a wet, miserable
day. I definitely think they can. I think the Hawks are, just going. They got rolled by 5 points by West Coast in terrible conditions, but Maybe it'll be similar conditions in Tassie. But Sydney love those sort of conditions as well. I mean, they had wet conditions against the Kangas. That's another tough game to call, a little bit too early to call without knowing who's in and who's out. And we'll wait and see the conditions. But no, Sydney can definitely win there, no doubt.
I can't think of many sides in the comp who harass and tackle and smother and chase and do all those little niggly things better than the Swans, especially when it's wet. It's very hard to get a bit of breathing space.
Well, there was a side that did it better than anyone for the last couple of years, and that was Collingwood. Yeah. And that's probably where they've dropped off, and that's where they'll want to be at their best tomorrow if they're going to knock off the Bombers.
Yep. Finally, Adelaide v Port, the first showdown for the year. It's a game you probably played in. What did you play?
Yeah, I got played in one.
Yeah. It's a pretty remarkable lead up.
Yeah, they are. You know, when people started pumping them up, I sort of thought, oh, come on, it's two sides in one state playing. You know, you're playing finals and that sort of thing. It wouldn't be that big, but it is big to the South Australians. They love it. The one thing I do know about it, doesn't matter who's in better form or who's not. Yeah. They always seem to. It always seems to probably go the other way. Port have been in every single game they've played, so they have done nothing wrong. Adelaide have probably beaten up on the weaklings to some degree. They haven't.
Flat track bully.
Yeah, they have been so far. This will be a really good test. This will be a really good game, I think, because both are in reasonable form.
Fantastic. Now, put the battery in your alarm clock. 4 o'clock, you've got to set it for tomorrow.
4 o'clock.
And get there at 5, get a front row seat. Happy Anzac Day, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Cheers. Thanks, Charlie.